Why is Dave's not here? Because he was on the
He
five.
was, he was at the other meeting. Would you please call the roll, Jackie, now, please?
Oh, first we want to begin the video, and then we'll do the
You're
roll
right.
call.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. I intended to do that. Please give your attention to this short video.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Thank you. And Jackie, will you now please call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner Mitchoff?
Here.
Commissioner White? Vice Chair Hudson? And Chair Haskew?
Here.
We have
The
all
next
members.
item on the agenda, oh, sorry.
No worries. I was just going to let you know that Commissioner White and Vice Chair Haskew are both absent.
No, I'm here. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Have we received any item in the mail, or do we see any hands raised?
No hands raised and no written public comment received.
Alrighty, then we're moving on to the next item, which is the consent calendar. Are there any changes or comments that we wish to have? If so, please let me know. Wave at me, stick your hand up. I'm not seeing any activity. Ergo,
So Luella, I will move the consent calendar as is.
okay, thank you very much,
I will
Chris.
second it.
Thank you very much, Karen. So we have a move and a second, and may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchoff?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Vice Chair Hudson? Chair Haskew?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with Commissioner White and Vice Chair Hudson absent.
Okay, to turn one more page. Now we're on to the regular agenda items. The first item on the regular agenda is an action item for authorization to issue RFQ 22-3 for on-call transportation planning support and related services. That will be presented by John. So please, John.
Good evening, Chair Haskew and Commissioners. John Huang, Director of Planning. For this item, staff is seeking authorization to issue the request for qualifications to establish an on-call bench of consultants. And the bench will be assisting CCTA with transportation planning activities and other services that is being provided under the planning section. Typically, CCTA releases RFQs or RFPs to solicit consultant services for a particular project or specific programs. The last RFP that the planning folks did was for an ongoing planning services that was issued back in 2016. The outcome of that solicitation was that we brought on our consultant, our current consultant, primary consultant, PlaceWorks, and their subs to lead the action plans and countywide transmission plan effort. Since then, as specific projects arises and studies comes up, CCTA would issue specific RFPs and bring on consultants specifically for those projects. For this RFQ, there are 6 categories of services that we're looking at consultants to provide, including your general transportation planning services, environmental active transportation, which is a big item right now, housing and land use also, transmission technology, and other categories, including grant writing, GIS mapping, and also communication support. It's the intention that the selected consultants will enter into a initial 3-year contract with the option of 2 one-year extensions. These consultant contracts can be federalized if that's the case, and it can use other funding. CCTA can use other funding besides federal funds, such as state and local funding, to pay for these consultants. We anticipate awarding contracts around September 21st, following the process. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
And with that lead in, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Kelly, please.
Yes, John, so you say you're gonna build a bench here. How many organizations do you figure you would put in this
Yeah,
group?
that's a great question. I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest from consultants. I think we're looking at a handful of consultants. It really depends on the quality of the consultant and the number of consultants proposing. My guess would be 5 to 6, maybe.
Yeah.
No more than that, because it gets unmanageable beyond that.
Yeah, that makes a heck of a lot of sense. And I know in my city, we have something similar for different kinds of areas, just people we can call on without having to go through the whole RFP thing. So that's great.
Thank you. Anybody else at the commission level? I see none. Is there anybody who has sent us any communications or anybody who has indicated they would like to speak?
No
Jackie?
written public comment on this. No
And
hands.
I don't see any hands up. May I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll move the item.
And I'll
Thank you.
second the item.
Thank you very much. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchoff,
Yes.
Commissioner White, Vice Chair Hudson, Chair Haskew.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner White and Vice Chair Hudson absent.
Madam Chair, if I could, and we have excellent representation of the male species on our call, but I'd like to note that the 2 men are not here and it's the women getting the work done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay.
Including
moving on
Ms.
to-
Reyes.
Yes, moving on to our next item. We want an update on the One Bay Area Grant Cycle OBAG program and call for projects. And I think John's going to do that one as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair, Chair Haskew. So
Thank you.
Matt's going to help me with the slideshow. So I have a short slide deck. So this is an update for this committee. Actually, we went straight to the board last time when we actually got the board approval to release the call for projects. So this is an opportunity for this committee to know a little bit more about the OBAG 3 if you don't already. And it's also an opportunity for the public members, since this is a public meeting, to provide inputs to the process. So Matt, next slide. OBAG 3, which is also referred to as One Bay Area Grant Cycle 3, is really an MTC call for projects. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that MTC really delegates CCTA to administer this corporate project for them. And we're doing this on behalf of Contra Costa County. There are federal funds involved, STP, Surface Transportation Funds, and the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Management Air Quality Fund, CMAQ. The two different types of funds, STP is easier to use, CMAQ is harder to use. And I can go into a little bit detail later on. It's a 4-year program of funding starting in fiscal year 22-23, 25-26. And the MTC set this up to align with the Plan Bay Area 2050 strategies. Next slide. So again, this is a region-wide MTC call for projects. The projects that CCTA will be nominating will be competing against other counties' projects. So it's a competitive, very competitive process. And MTC has really focused on funding priority development areas, PDAs. You've probably heard a lot about that, and areas within PDAs. Next slide. So the program that CCTA has developed for Contra Costa County includes 3 categories. We're working with a nomination amount of $56.8 million. Half of that funding will be going towards a countywide smart signals project. And then the other half is going to go towards the active transportation and safety program and safety and programmatic categories. So down there, number 1, as I mentioned, is the smart signals. CCTA will be the project sponsors. We've reached out to all the cities and towns and the county, and working closely with your staff to come up with the locations where the improvements will be occurring. And we're asking that all the cities provide the local match for the costs associated with upgrading equipment within that city. For the active transportation and safety, this is your true call for projects, where we issue a call for project, and cities are currently identifying projects to submit to CCTA for evaluation and prioritization. And that deadline is actually going to be in July 15th, about 10 days from now. And then the third category, which is safe route to school, non-infrastructure. After the program was established, we found out that CCTA would be the best agency to actually sponsor a countywide program. So again, this is a CCTA-led process also, and we've been fortunate enough to coordinate with the county and the other jurisdiction, and this project will actually benefit all the schools within Contra Costa County. Next slide. Really briefly about smart signals. We want to interconnect signals on major corridors within Contra Costa County, and to enhance communications and really set the stage for ITS, Intelligent Transmission System. We hope to deploy cameras, detections, video detections for bike and vehicles, emergency preemption, transit signal priorities, and the system that we're eventually going to implement will allow remote monitoring and access, and also to set the stage for future autonomous vehicles and other technologies. Our theme here is really Vision Zero centric. We're looking at safety improvements to minimize collision between drivers and pedestrian and bicyclists. Next slide. This is the programmatic category that CCTA will be proposing, will be sponsoring. It really does look at the non-infrastructure side. We're not looking at building fundings, sidewalk improvements or bike lanes, but really looking at the education encouragement activities, outreach and education for K through 12. We're looking at different programs, like if you're familiar with Smart Streets, the program with the banners on the roadside and so forth. Those are the type of stuff that this program will be funding. Next slide. This is the active transportation. These are where the cities will be competing against each other. Not only cities and town, but BART and transit agencies are eligible to apply. We're asking that cities look at larger size projects. I know the smaller cities are maybe challenged in that. So the cities can look at bundling projects or looking at pavement projects that includes a bike and pedestrian component, what we call complete streets. We're asking that each city really look deep and hard and really bring out the top 2 projects that the cities can have to be competitive, and so that we can have the best projects going forward for the nomination. Again, all the projects will have that 70% PDA goal. There's a lot of questions about the local road safety plan. That's going to be another CCTA-led effort. As we're going through this process and talking to all the cities, and then we talked to MTC also, we felt that it's best that the CCTA leads this effort, and we'll be receiving some regional OMAC 3 funds to help the cities implement this. And this is deadline won't be until December of 23, so we do have some time to work on this with the cities. Next slide. The projects that will be submitted will go through a prioritization process. We'll look at eligibility as a screening criteria. We'll look at deliverability, community support, community served. Again, focusing on PDAs. Next slide. And ultimately, a project will have a maximum of 75 points. These are the different criterion, and they're all weighted differently depending on the type and so forth. So maximum a project can receive is 75 points. Next slide. So we take that 75 points and the project list and we submit it to MTC, and MTC is going to tack on up to another 35 points, actually 25 points to make it 100. And if the project is CMAQ eligible, which is basically air quality eligible, then MTC can provide 10 points. So maximum project, if it falls and meets all those criteria, can actually receive 110 points. Again, emphasis on the PDA, and MTC will be looking at funding, providing $200 million towards bike and ped projects. And that's why for this county, for our program, we really focus on bike and ped projects, and also another 25 million for Safe Route to School region-wide. Next slide. This is the schedule. So we're in July here. So the projects will be due, as I mentioned earlier, on the 15th. It's a really tight deadline, but we're asking a review panel to review and prioritize the projects by the end of July, and we'll be taking it to the committees and back to this committee back on September 7th, and then the board at the September 21st meeting, and we intend to submit the final prioritization list to MTC September 30th, which is what they're suggesting. The successful project sponsors will be available to access their funding October 23. And cities who do receive OMAC 3 funds have until January 27 to obligate the funds. With that, I conclude my presentation and will answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Thank you. That takes us to, are there any questions? And Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, so John, so who makes the final decision? Is it MTC on the projects?
MTC makes the final decision, correct?
Okay, so we kind of, CCTA gathers all the projects together and submits up to a certain dollar amount,
Yeah, it's that, it's so,
MTC, and then they make the final decision.
right, if you saw that slide, I had like a 56.8 million. That's,
Right.
and then there's a $47 million amount there. There's two different amounts, so if everything works out well and CCTA receives our fair share, we should be closer about this $47 million mark. MTC is asking us to submit more than the
Right.
47, 120% more, which
Okay. And is there a possibility the county may not receive much funding at all because another county has projects that are preferable to MTC? Or do we get like a certain percentage of the pie, so to speak?
yeah, well, our percentage of the pie is at 47 million.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we're
I
kind of
think-
guaranteed that.
I wouldn't say guarantee, but I think on staff, I know Tim and I and our staff is working hard working hard with MTC staff to make sure that we get at least that, if not more.
Okay, assuming that we have good projects that meet their qualifications. I know our
Okay.
hands are kind of tied here, but
Exactly, and thus, we want to push forward the best project that competes well, region-wide.
right. And then last question, John, in going around and talking to the different jurisdictions, is everybody showing interest? All of our cities and so forth in participating?
Right, yeah, all the cities, as far as the smart signals, we receive fantastic feedback and all the cities are excited. As far as the other, the active transportation site, yeah, I think all the cities I'm expecting applications from each cities.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I have a question. So it was the active transportation that you're looking to the cities to help fund do I have that even close to correct?
Yes, so the active transportation projects, help funding meaning provide the matching funds because
Yeah.
these are federal funds, so cities will be asked to provide the minimum 11.47% match. Now, cities can provide more if they would like to. That would just increase their score. And on the smart signals project, the countywide smart signals, cities are asked to provide the matching funds for their share of that project also.
And I say this because I represent one of the more financially secure cities. Are the other cities in the county, do they need help? Does it look like everybody can manage to participate in that with the mandate for the additional funding?
I haven't heard any feedback from the cities as far as their ability to provide the matching funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Any more questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'm checking in with Jackie. Are there any written communications? And I see no hands raised, but maybe you do.
No hands raised and no written public comment either.
Okay. This requires approval motion.
No, this one actually was just informational only. to
Information
provide us with the
only.
update. Yes.
Okay, so we get to be smarter and we don't have to take action. I like these the best. Okay, if there are no things, then we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is correspondence and communications. And I'm just guessing there aren't any.
You're actually hoping there aren't any.
Yeah, well, nobody's staying for it. Nevertheless, we have commissioner and staff comments. And I don't have any comments. Do the other commissioners have any comments? I'm seeing none. Does staff have any additional comments?
No comments this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, goody. Okay, that being the case, is there anything specifically from the executive staff that wants to share?
No comments from me this evening. Yeah, thank you.
Dang it. Okay, we are forced to have reached the adjournment. We will have to mention that when the men are there, we slow down, just saying. And I believe we are adjourned to our next meeting. Thank you very much, Steph. Thank you very much for the other committee members for attending, and have a safe and happy rest of the summer. See you later.